I want to tell you about a bill. It arrived 6 weeks after a woman I will call Dorothy got home from the hospital. She had spent 3 nights in a bed on the fourth floor. She had nurses checking on her every few hours. She had IV medication, meals delivered to her room, a physical therapist who came in on the second morning to work with her on getting up safely. By every measure of the word, she was in the hospital. And then the bill arrived for her rehabilitation facility stay, the place her doctor had sent her to recover before going home. The number at the bottom was over $9,000. Medicare, the letter explained, was not going to pay it. Dorothy had been under observation status, and she had no idea what that meant. This is not an unusual story. It is, according to Medicare advocates and government auditors, one of the most common and most costly traps in the entire Medicare system. And the reason it keeps happening, the reason it happened to Dorothy and to thousands of seniors just like her every single year, is not that the rule is hidden. The rule is published. The notices are required by law. The OIG has flagged the problem in multiple reports. The reason it keeps happening is that nobody explains it in plain English until the bill arrives. That ends today. In the next several minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly what observation status is, exactly what it costs, exactly why hospitals use it, and, most importantly, exactly what you are allowed to do about it while you are still in the hospital, before a single dollar of damage is done. The time to understand this is not when you are standing at the mailbox holding a bill you cannot pay. The time is right now. Before we get into it, I want to hear from you. Has this happened to you or to someone in your family? Were you ever surprised by a large bill after a hospital stay that you thought was going to be covered? Drop it in the comments. I want to know how many people watching this have already been through it. And if the answer is yes, stay with me, because there is something you may be able to do about past stays that I will get to before the end. And before anything else, everything I share here is educational. It is not personalized legal or financial advice. For guidance specific to your situation, contact your state health insurance assistance program, which is called SHIP and is free in every state. Your money is too important for generalities. My name is Walter Barron. I am a state bar licensed estate attorney, and for more than 15 years, I have worked with families on the legal and financial side of Medicare, billing disputes, denied claims, and the paperwork that nobody explains until it is already too late. Let us get into it. When you come to the hospital, through the emergency room, through a planned procedure, through any door, the hospital makes a decision about how to classify your stay. That classification happens behind the scenes, often without anyone explaining it to you, and it determines almost everything about what Medicare pays and what you owe. There are two classifications. The first is inpatient. When you are formally admitted to the hospital as an inpatient, your stay is covered under Medicare Part A. You pay a single deductible. In 2026, that is $1,736, and that covers up to 60 days of hospital care. And critically, if you spend at least 3 days as an inpatient, you qualify for Medicare to cover your care in a skilled nursing facility afterward. That is the rehab facility, the physical therapy, the step-down care that most people need before they can safely go home after a serious illness or surgery. The second classification is observation status. When you are placed under observation, Medicare treats your entire stay as outpatient care, covered under Part B. You pay a 20% coinsurance on every service with no cap on the total. Your prescription drugs during the stay may not be covered by Part A, meaning you can be charged retail prices for medications you thought were included. And observation days, no matter how many of them there are, do not count toward the 3-day inpatient requirement for skilled nursing facility coverage. Let me make sure that last part is completely clear, because it is the part that surprises people the most. You can spend 4 nights in a hospital bed, under the care of doctors and nurses, receiving treatment for a serious medical condition. And if your status is observation, Medicare will not pay for skilled nursing care afterward. Not a dollar. Because as far as Medicare is concerned, you were never officially admitted. You were an outpatient who happened to be sleeping in the building. The average cost of a skilled nursing facility stay is around $314 per day. A 20-day stay, not unusual after a hip replacement, a fall, a stroke, or a serious infection, amounts to more than $6,000 at that rate. And if you need care beyond 20 days, Medicare's coinsurance kicks in at $217 per day for days 21 through 100. A 30-day stay without the qualifying inpatient admission behind it can leave a senior responsible for $10,000 or more with no Medicare coverage at all, simply because of a classification decision that was made without their knowledge or meaningful input. That is what happened to Dorothy. And that is what the OIG has repeatedly identified as one of the most financially damaging billing classifications in the Medicare system. So why does this happen? Why would a hospital place you under observation instead of admitting you as an inpatient? The short answer is that hospitals are protecting themselves from a different problem. Under Medicare's 2-midnight rule, which has been in place since 2014, a hospital stay generally needs to span at least 2 midnights to qualify as an appropriate inpatient admission. If a hospital admits a patient as an inpatient for a short stay that does not cross 2 midnights, the hospital risks having that claim denied or flagged for a government audit. The OIG has found billions of dollars in improper inpatient payments for short stays that did not meet this requirement. The government estimated $7.8 billion in improper payments for short inpatient stays between 2016 and 2020 alone, and the broader estimate for 2017 through 2021 reached $23.9 billion. So hospitals, to protect themselves from that audit risk, began classifying more patients as observation cases, particularly patients whose expected stay was uncertain or whose condition did not clearly meet the 2-midnight threshold at the moment of admission. The result is a system where hospitals are financially incentivized to use observation status because it reduces their exposure to audit recovery. And you are the one who pays the price when they do, because the 3-day clock never starts running and your skilled nursing benefit disappears. There is also a financial difference for the hospital that most patients never see. Under observation status, certain services, medications for example, are billed as outpatient pharmacy charges rather than as part of the inpatient stay bundle. That means you may be charged directly for drugs administered to you in the hospital at retail prices, rather than having them included in the overall inpatient payment. Some seniors have reported being shocked to discover charges of $20 to $40 per pill for medications they normally receive for a few dollars at their pharmacy, simply because the status on their chart said observation. There is one more layer to this that most families never understand until it is too late. Even if you begin your hospital stay as an inpatient and are later reclassified to observation, something that can happen days into a stay, sometimes without any verbal notification, the days you spent as an inpatient before the reclassification may not count. You can be formally admitted on a Monday, reclassified on Wednesday, and leave on Thursday having spent 4 nights in a hospital bed with 0 qualifying days toward your skilled nursing facility benefit. The reclassification reaches backward, and the hospital's utilization review committee, not your doctor, but an internal administrative body, is often the one making that reclassification decision. Here is what federal law says you are entitled to know and what the hospital is required to tell you. Since 2016, hospitals have been required by law to give you a written notice if you are placed under observation status for more than 24 hours. This notice is called the Medicare Outpatient Observation Notice, and most people know it by its abbreviation, the MOON. The hospital must provide it within 36 hours of your observation services beginning, and a staff member is required to verbally explain what it means for your costs and your eligibility for skilled nursing facility coverage. As of April 2026, hospitals must use an updated version of this form, the revised CMS Form 10611. The updated form applies to both original Medicare and Medicare Advantage plans. If you never received a Moon notice during a hospital stay where you were told you were under observation, or if you received a document you did not understand and no one explained it, that is a specific problem you can raise. The hospital was required by law to deliver that notice and explain it to you. The failure to do so does not automatically change your coverage, but it is a documented failure of a legal obligation that may be relevant if you are pursuing an appeal. Now, here's the part that most seniors are never told, and it is the most important thing in this entire video. You do not have to accept the observation classification silently. You can challenge it. And a federal court order established in 2020 confirmed that specific categories of Medicare patients have the formal right to appeal observation status reclassifications. That court order, the result of a long-running class action lawsuit called Alexander versus Azar, requires Medicare to provide appeal rights to beneficiaries who meet the following criteria. They were formally admitted as inpatients, then reclassified by the hospital to observation status, received care during a hospital stay of 3 or more consecutive days, or were designated as inpatients for fewer than 3 days and had a subsequent skilled nursing facility stay that Medicare would not cover as a result. If that describes a hospital stay you or a family member experienced on or after January 1st, 2009, you may have had the right to file a retrospective appeal. A deadline for those retrospective appeals passed in January 2026, but the prospective appeal rights established by the court order apply to current and future stays. If you are reclassified from inpatient to observation status during a hospital stay right now, you have the right to request an expedited appeal through a quality improvement organization, and a decision must be made within 1 calendar day of the QIO receiving the necessary medical records. Let me say that again because it matters. If you are in a hospital today and you discover that you have been placed under observation status, you can request an expedited appeal before you are discharged. You can do it from your hospital bed. The decision comes within 1 business day, and if you win, your days count toward the 3-day inpatient requirement, and your skilled nursing facility coverage is restored. Most people do not know this option exists. Most people receive the MOON notice, if they receive it at all, read something they do not understand, sign it, and never realize they have a right to contest the classification before leaving the building. The single most important thing you can do is ask the question before you settle in. When you or a family member is admitted to a hospital, or when you are in the emergency room and it looks like you may be staying, ask the admissions staff one specific question. Are you being admitted as an inpatient, or are you being placed under observation status? That question, asked out loud and on the record, puts the hospital on notice that you understand the difference. It does not guarantee that the answer will be inpatient, but it begins a conversation that you are legally entitled to have. If the answer is observation, ask the doctor who is treating you whether the clinical situation supports an inpatient admission under the 2-midnight rule. The 2-midnight rule asks one question: does the doctor reasonably expect, based on your condition at the time of admission, that you will need medically necessary hospital care crossing at least 2 midnights? If the answer is yes, your doctor has the clinical and legal basis to write an inpatient admission order. The status decision is not made by the billing department alone. Your physician has a direct role in it, and you have the right to ask them to consider it. If you are placed under observation and you believe inpatient status was appropriate, request an expedited appeal through your SHIP office or by contacting the Quality Improvement Organization for your state. Keep the Moon notice if you received one. Keep any other paperwork the hospital gave you about your status. And keep any bills you receive from the skilled nursing facility that Medicare declined to pay. If you have a family member who is currently in the hospital, call them now and ask what their status is. Today, before the discharge papers are signed. Once you leave the building, the options narrow significantly. Inside the hospital, there is still time. Let me leave you with 3 steps that take very little time and that could save thousands of dollars. The first step is to know the question before the next hospital visit, and to make sure someone in your family knows it too. The question is, am I being admitted as an inpatient or placed under observation? Not which floor you are on, not whether you have a wristband, not whether you have a bed and a meal tray. The specific billing classification is what determines everything that follows. Ask the admissions staff. Ask the nurse. And if you are not getting a clear answer, ask to speak with the patient advocate or the hospital social worker. Every hospital has one, and they can tell you exactly what your classification is. Teach this question to your adult children before they ever need it. When a family member is sick and frightened, they are not thinking about Medicare classifications. If they know the question ahead of time, they can ask it. The second step is to check any hospital stay you have had in the last few years. Look at your Medicare summary notice or your explanation of benefits from Medicare. You can access these at mymedicare.gov, or they come in the mail after any claim is processed. Find the hospital stay. Look at whether Medicare paid under Part A or Part B. If Part B was the primary payer for a stay where you thought you were admitted as a patient, that is a sign your classification may have been observation. If you paid out of pocket for a skilled nursing facility afterward because Medicare declined to cover it, and the hospital stay was on or after January 1st, 2009, contact your SHIP office and ask about the Alexander versus Azar appeal process. The retrospective appeal window for the original class action has closed, but your SHIP counselor can help you understand what options remain available for your specific situation. The third step is to never sign a moon notice without reading it carefully and asking questions. The moon is the written notice the hospital is required to give you within 36 hours if you are under observation status. It tells you your status and the financial consequences. When that document is handed to you, do not sign it and move on. Read it. Ask the person delivering it to explain what it means for your skilled nursing facility benefit. Ask whether you have the right to request an expedited appeal. You are not making trouble. You are exercising rights that federal law specifically gives you. The signature does not mean you agree with the classification. It means you received the notice. Those are very different things, and understanding the difference is what gives you the ability to act. The observation status problem is not new. It is not going away. But it is entirely possible to protect yourself from it if you know what to ask and when to ask it. The hospital does not expect you to know this. Your Medicare plan is not going to call and explain it. The only thing that changes the outcome for you specifically is whether someone told you before the bill arrived. Now someone has. If you know someone who has been in the hospital recently or who has a planned procedure coming up, please share this with them. It will not cost you a minute, and it might save them a great deal more than that. Thank you for watching.